Welcome to the Golden Chronicle. This is not a history class, but it is a story you'll watch with pleasure, remember for a long time, and follow while holding your breath. We'll walk through the dark corridors of palaces, hear the footsteps of bankers hiding in the shadow of kings. This is a tale that will make you laugh and think. Today, I'm going to tell you the story of a king whose honor was quietly shattered, but not a king raised in splendor, commanding mighty armies, forcing his enemies to kneel. No, this king knelt before a banker, right in front of an entire nation. Yes, you heard that right. A king was scolded by a banker. A story that makes you ask, what does money really rule? Ready? Because this is not just a story of a king, but of money, power plays, and false loyalties. And yes, today we have a king who gets scolded. And by whom? By one of the richest men in the world, Baron James de Rothschild. And that scolding wasn't just a slap to one man. It was the first broken link in the chain that would bring down an entire monarchy.
An explosion in the dusty pages of history, 1830, Paris. The cobblestone streets of Paris were still covered in the smoke of the July Revolution. People were hungry for bread and freedom. The squares echoed with anger and hope. France faced a choice. Would it surrender to the uncertain freedom of a republic, or use a controlled monarchy to contain the chaos? And in the middle of this turmoil, the true forces of power stepped onto the stage. The bourgeoisie, bankers, politicians, aristocrats, a secret commission. Their decision was clear. We need a king who is manageable, not a revolutionary. The summer heat was suffocating. The smell of gunpowder overpowered even the flower stalls. The clock towers rang. Nobody cared. Barriers rose across the streets, setting the rhythm of revolution. It was 1830. France was on its feet once again. King Charles de Fix's rigid reactionary policies had pushed the people to the limit. He was removed from the throne. France stood at a crossroads. Would it become a republic, or would it choose a new, more controllable king? Who made that decision? Not those with swords, armies, or crowns, but those with money. A group of bankers, aristocrats, industrialists, and politicians gathered. They all wanted the same thing. Give us a king who is manageable, obedient, bourgeois-friendly. And so France took its next step toward its new destiny. But the interesting part wasn't the revolution. It was who they put on the throne afterward. A man who went down in history as both the citizen king and the pair king. His name, Louis-Philippe d'Orléans. And trust me, by the end of this story, he won't flee like a king, but like an accountant, using the fake name Mr. Smith. More neighbor uncle than king. When Louis-Philippe became king, France didn't need a glorious emperor. It needed a controlled and manageable monarch. The nobles were whispering, we need a king who can be controlled. The bourgeoisie thought, someone who won't meddle with the economy, but will leave it to us. Who fit this role perfectly? Louis-Philippe. He rejected Versailles' glory. He rejected the golden throne. He rejected magnificence. He took morning walks alone, wore a simple grey top hat, made jokes with street vendors, asked shopkeepers, how's business today? He called himself not King of France, but King of the French. In short, I'm one of you. I'm just a citizen. The people adored it. The previous king looked like he descended from the clouds. This one felt like the chill guy from the neighborhood. But the painful truth? Louis-Philippe's modesty was nothing but a costume, a strategy, a mask. He disliked the aristocracy. He despised the symbols of the old regime. The only class he truly admired was the bourgeoisie. Bankers, factory owners, investors, financiers. His closest figure, his ideological right hand, François Guizot. A real plan. Bourgeoisie, bankers, industrialists, a perfect alliance. And the people? Just decoration. The real power network. Where was the real power? Here's the clue. A king's power comes from the army. Not anymore. After 1830, power in France looked like this. 1. Bankers, especially the Rothschilds. 2. Industrial barons. 3. Railway companies. 4. Pro-business politicians. 5. And at the very bottom, the king himself. The king himself. Yes, the king was the lowest piece on the board, who sat at the center of this hidden network. Baron James Meyer de Rothschild. 1792 to 1868, he controlled France's biggest loans, major railway lines like Gare du Nord, state financing, massive industrial investments. In short, Louis-Philippe wore the crown, but James held the money. And in history, the rule is always the same. Those with money write the story. The voice of the bourgeoisie, François Guizot, prime minister, historian, philosopher of the bourgeoisie, architect of the government, and the man the people hated. His famous phrase, Enrichissez-vous, enrich yourselves, but not in the inspirational sense. He meant something else entirely. If you have no property, you have no political voice. Work, earn, and then you may speak. That sentence alone alone revealed the heart of the regime. The king becomes a pair, literally. Two names enter now: Charles Philippon, honoré daumier brutal cartoonists, masters of French satire. Their verdict on the king: this man is a pair, not a metaphor. They drew him as a pair, again and again. The people loved it. The king hated it. A tyrant inspires fear. A clown inspires mockery. And mockery destroys kings faster than swords. Art became a revolution. A king and a banker. The humiliation. Now we approach the heart of the story. Louis-Philippe didn't treat Rothschild like a banker. He treated him like a superior. Need a state loan? Not without James. Railway investment? James decides. Government financing? James approves. People began to whisper, France's king isn't Louis-Philippe, it's Rothschild. Even ministers said, the king no longer goes to Versailles for power, he goes to Rue Lafitte. Rue Lafitte was not a palace, it was Rothschild's bank. The crown's true address was the bank. The day the banker scolded the king, the 1840s. A ceremony to open the Great Northern Railway. The king, ministers, officials, all waiting at the station. But the ceremony doesn't start. Why? Rothschild hasn't arrived. A king being kept waiting was unthinkable. Humiliating. But the king waited. And when Rothschild finally arrived, he didn't bow, didn't greet respectfully, didn't apologize. Instead, he said, more or less, Majesty, you should understand how unreasonable it is to schedule events this early. My time is more valuable than your ceremonies. Historians summarized the moment. Rothschild scolded the king the way you would scold a civil servant. And the king, he stayed silent, swallowed hard, smiled, because the true king in that moment wasn't Louis-Philippe, it was money. That humiliation helped ignite the revolution. 1848. Flames in the streets. Paris erupted. Reform now! We want bread. Guizot resign. The king panicked, fired Guizot, called the National Guard. But the guard replied, Majesty, we choose the people. The deadliest sentence a king can hear. Louis-Philippe fled, and he didn't flee as a king. He fled as Mr. Smith, the scent of money. The Rothschild mourning back to Rue Lafitte, the secret capital of Europe. Before dawn, the mansion was already awake. Servants running, carriages waiting, documents shuffling. Baron James de Rothschild was about to rise. And when he woke early, everyone whispered, something big will happen today. He washed his face, looked into the mirror, and murmured, today we'll review the reports from London. And of course I have a small lesson to give His Majesty. When James used the word lesson, it wasn't with a ruler, but with state budgets, interest rates, and army payrolls. His smile wasn't the smile of a businessman. It was the smile of a man who saw the world as a chessboard. He drank his hot chocolate, read the first financial report of the day. Most people would faint reading it. James smiled. Europe smells like a new crisis. Good, very good, very good. The king's fate, the banker's pen. As evening fell over Paris, the golden yellow lights of the street lamps cast trembling reflections on the Seine River. The city tried to hide the economic troubles simmering beneath the surface all day, the endless political arguments, and the lingering embers of the revolution behind a curtain of fog. But the truth pressed directly onto the fog itself. France was out of money, and a country without money was just like a person without money. It could manage for a while, but then collapse would become inevitable. That evening, Baron James de Rothschild was alone in his study. The impact of the morning meeting with King Louis-Philippe still hung in the air. James pulled the lamps closer, spreading the papers across the large wooden desk. Every document, a city, every city, a market, every market, a balance of power. And at the center of it all stood James's gold-sealed pen. The Baron took the pen in his hand and turned it slightly, as if he were weighing a sword. We will save France again, but this time I will toughen my conditions. His words did not sound like a threat. They were spoken with the calm confidence of a doctor delivering a diagnosis. The calm before the storm in Paris. Things were more complicated at the palace. King Louis-Philippe was sitting in his grand hall, meeting with the kingdom's most senior advisors. But the advisors were like frightened pigeons gathered around the king. No one dared to speak directly. The king lifted his head. Baron James scolded me badly, but he was right. This sentence shocked everyone in the palace. Would a king admit fault in front of a banker? It was one of the rarest moments in French history. The king continued, if the people return to the streets again, if our treasury remains empty, I cannot stay on this throne. One advisor asked in a timid voice, Your Majesty, will you accept the baron's terms? The king lowered his head. Yes. But the king knew one more thing. Accepting the baron's conditions meant surrendering the fate of the state to one family. Who was this family? The Rothschilds. The depth of the Rothschild network. A painting hung on the wall in Baron James's study. Portraits of the family members. Meyer Amschel Rothschild, the founder, the man who rose from Frankfurt's back streets to rule Europe. Nathan de Rothschild, the silent conqueror of London, the man who shaped England's destiny after Waterloo. Salomon Rothschild, the diplomatic master of Vienna. Karl Mayer von Rothschild, the financial visionary of Naples. James Rothschild, the banking god of Paris. The Baron took a deep breath. He leaned over the desk and dragged his finger across the papers, as if drawing an invisible line. If France's debts, England's interest rates, Austria's bonds, Naples' port revenues, then he smiled. And all of this is connected to me. James managed this power not like a ruler, but like an engineer. Introduction, development, conclusion. Every move calculated, every step planned. But today the most important plan would begin. The final credit package to be given to King Louis-Philippe. The Baron picked up his pen. He looked at the date at the top of the document. 1834, Paris. Today, we rewrite France's fate. And he signed. The invisible war of money. Transfer back then. Money transfer was not like the one-click operations of today. It was a cross-continental mission. It could shake the security balance of all Europe. The Rothschild family's hidden power that ruled the world was this: a fast and secure money-carrying system. The courier network. These people were not ordinary couriers. Each one used code names, knew the horse-changing stations by heart, spoke several languages, advanced even in the harshest conditions, and would never reveal a secret, even if they died while carrying a Rothschild message. If a courier could leave Frankfurt in the morning and reach Paris by evening, this was no ordinary speed. Even state mail was not this fast at the time. European leaders trusted the Rothschild courier's speed more than their own state intelligence. For the loan planned for France, this network was now working at full capacity. Gold prices came from London, bond data from Frankfurt, government bond purchase plans from Vienna, liquidity reports from Naples. All the information flowed to Paris. But this was not merely a logistical success. The true power of this network lay here. The Rothschild family obtained information before states did. That was why they always won, and Baron James did not hesitate to use this power. Money can be stronger than kings, and if a king is not the master of money, he is merely its servant. Being the people's king is one thing, looking like one of the people is another. False sincerity works for a while, but when the truth emerges, the masks fall. This story shows us money can stand above kings. A leader's power comes from his connection with the people, not with bankers. Art and humor, as in Daumier's caricatures, can truly topple a government. If state governance becomes completely dependent on financial circles, collapse is inevitable. And the final lesson? To be a king, one must act like a king. Louis-Philippe never succeeded in doing that.
Thank you very much for watching this video. We would love to hear your thoughts on this topic. Do you agree with this view? Let us know in the comments. Don't forget to follow and subscribe. Share with us any subjects you're curious about or would like to see.